out of the dark. My first experience with the supernatural was one of the most terrible life experiences I can remember. It happened when I was young and dumb and wanted to go out into the world and explore. While I was out of my home country of Canada, I witnessed a horror I soon hope I'd forget. I'd gone on a trip with some buddies to Montana, just below my home province of Alberta. We were originally going to stay in Yellowstone National Park, but decided to head to Glacier National Park first before camping out at Yellowstone for a few days. We finally reached Glacier Park after a 6-hour drive and had just enough time to do a little hiking before going to our hotel in the nearby town, just to rest and move on towards Yellowstone. We had gotten to the park around 4:30 p.m. and decided it was a great idea to hike after dark. So we hiked up the trail looking over the glorious views of rivers and waterfalls of the Avalanche Creek Trail. The light began to fade rather quickly while we were about 2/3 of the way up, and we had hiked into the trail about 10 kilometers, so it would take us about 2 hours to walk back down from that point. This is when it all goes downhill. Myself and my friends were all outdoorsmen and loved to go hiking and travel around the Rocky Mountains, but we were still inexperienced when it came to night hiking. Since the trail we were on wasn't as traveled at this part of the hike, the trail was hard to follow in the dark. Although every now and then we'd see a sign that notified us we were going in the right direction. At some point, maybe a third of the way down the mountain, we ended up going off trail following a little rabbit trail thinking we were still on the right path. We began to figure out that we were definitely not going the right way as my friend checked his compass and we were heading deeper into the Rocky Mountains, miles and miles of forest. Then begins the mass panic. My friends and I immediately turned around and began walking the way we came, but the trail we were following didn't look the same as it had before, leading us to being even more lost than we were originally. That's when we collectively noticed how quiet it had gotten. No insects, no birds, nothing. It was dead silence. I knew this was a bad sign as I'm a hunter, and when it gets quiet like this, it means that there's a large predator around and that it's hunting time. We had literally become the prey to an unknown beast in the woods. We all began getting a sudden spike of anxiety when I let the guys know what was up. That's when we hear it, a noise that brought terror, a guttural howl from up the mountain, which was then followed by many more. My heart went into my throat and the terror I felt made me shake. Most of my friends did the same. All but the 2 others had already dipped and had began running in the direction opposite of the howls. We all followed soon after, running ourselves ragged until we looked behind and saw the eye shine of something that was much larger than we had ever anticipated. The eyes were at least 6 feet off the ground and moving towards us fast. That's when we split up, running in random directions, hoping to lose the beast. It was never going to happen. I could hear the breath of one of the things about 20 feet behind me and gaining fast. All of a sudden, my friend appears from the trees to my right, and we end up running together until I cut off from him, hoping to escape. I know I left him to die that night, but it was a last-ditch effort that worked to my advantage. I heard his screams from my left and ran as fast as I could away from them, with tears rolling down my face. I could hear his screams for help and him shrieking in pain, and then nothing, as if he never existed. I continued running down the mountain until I saw a familiar sight ahead of me. It was one of the trail signs showing how far you were on the trail. I stopped, checked where I was, and started running again, hoping to get away from the creature on the mountain. Another kilometer down the trail, I began hearing howls getting closer and closer by the moment, causing me to run even harder. Looking ahead, I see the sign saying park lot and zoom past it in my panic, looking for the keys in my pocket and scrambling towards the only vehicle still left in the parking lot, which was my car. I used my fob to unlock my car from a distance and run as hard as I can towards it, slamming into the side of my door and opening it and hopping in. I look out my window towards the trail entrance to see 2 pairs of eyes staring at me from just out of range of the lamppost. They stared at me before disappearing into the brush, and I drove away, never looking back. I arrived at the ranger station by the park entrance and ran inside looking disheveled and terrified. I began telling the ranger at the desk what had happened. He then looked at me with a sad face as if he knew something like this would happen, and called up the search and rescue team to come in the morning to look for them. But they were never found. The woman in the white dress. This happened just yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. I'm not quite sure what to think of it, because it was just so bizarre and unbelievable. I might have just been sleep deprived. So last night, at maybe 2300 hours, I was walking around my block. My town is relatively safe, so I didn't feel in danger. Plus, it was a pretty night. I'd been walking around for 5 minutes when a pale woman with blonde hair and a white dress caught my eye from across the street. She was about my height and looked around my age too. I didn't actually pay attention to her after I first noticed her. While I circled the block again, she was on the same street, a couple of feet in front of me. She was standing on the curb, staring at the cars passing by. It was a main road, so even at that hour, people were still driving on it. I said hello to her, and she turned her gaze on me. I couldn't see her face super well, but from what I think I saw, she had no pupils or color in her eyes. She just stared at me. After a moment, I asked if she was okay. She didn't respond and simply pointed at the road. I was really confused and didn't understand. Right as I see a red car coming down the road, she stepped into it. The car slammed into her, and it was a bloody mess. The driver immediately stopped and jumped out. It was a man in his mid-20s. We both spoke about it, freaking out. He called the police, and I went around the car to see the state of the girl. Once I circled around the car, she was gone. Not gone as in dead, gone as in she just wasn't there. The blood on the road was gone too, but not gone from his car. After the police arrived, they concluded that it was just some big hoax of a kid who didn't know what they were talking about, and some guy who just decided to go along with it. The blood on the truck was brought in for investigation, only to be found as paint. Nothing else was put up about it. I'm still not sure what happened. It felt so real, but I don't believe in the paranormal. I don't know what it was, if it was just a dream or if it was real. I remember it like it was real. I feel like I can't leave the house now. I don't understand anything now, and I kind of feel like I'm going crazy. Has anyone else ever experienced something like this?